All right. Good morning. So I think we have a very interesting conversation here to really ask the questions around whether higher education is still relevant further to your, let's explore and then also think about some of the alternatives we're seeing emerge. So Naomi, I'd actually like to start with you since you're speaking for the Higher Education Council, right? So do you think higher education is relevant, and maybe we should rephrase this, what should the Higher Education Council be doing to make sure it stays relevant?
Thank you, Nirit, for this question. I absolutely think that higher education is still relevant and our higher education institutions are still relevant. I side with everything that Ami said in his talk earlier, with one important caveat, which is he said higher education institutions should change in order to become relevant. They are already changing in order to adapt to the new reality. And when I say I am not expressing my own personal opinion, this is the official policy of the Council for Higher Education. I brought with me some reading material to give away so that you know that I'm speaking from the official position. The flagship program of our multi-year development plan, strategic development plan of the Council for Higher Education, which goes from 2017 to 2022, so we are now in the midst of it, is what we call the new campus. And under this umbrella, we group a number of initiatives, all of which the purpose of these initiatives are to actually render higher education institutions relevant to this new and changing reality, to make sure that they adapt. We are part of the evolutionary process. We know that we are operating in a situation of changing labor market, a changing economy, a rapidly changing economy, and we need to make certain adaptations in order to be more adapted to this new reality. So, for example, we advance digital learning, not as a measure to simply make sure that we produce more online courses, but as a measure to make sure that the classroom remains a relevant arena for discussion on project-based learning, a more active type of learning for the students, where the emphasis is on learning outcomes and the skills that the student acquires more than the actual knowledge that is transferred from the lecturer to the student. This can be done indeed by using the internet medium, by using other digital aids, in order to make sure that the experience of learning becomes more relevant and updated. We are also encouraging the type of curricula that involves actually a multifaceted approach. So, for example, an engineering student would take a module in humanities or the social sciences in order to become this well-rounded personality that the labor market is seeking. We know that we want graduates that have soft skills as well as the hard skills. Nobody in this industry is going to give them those hard skills. I mean, I don't think that companies are going to start teaching calculus to their employees. So the university, the old disciplines of the university still have a very predominant place in giving students training of the new pedagogy that I just described, but at the same time, they need to think about this well-rounded personality that we're looking after and a multifaceted approach to what the graduate would look like. Thank you.
So thank you, and I'm thinking, Ami, you did describe how that hits the ground, and I wonder if a lot of that has to do with you coming in from the industry into the academic world, because you guys don't force this, right? It's a recommendation. So how difficult has it been to implement the new classroom?
Maybe a word with regard to the word relevant. You know, when we are talking about relevant or irrelevant, is towards what? I see in the last years the candidates that are coming with a lot of emphasis on what the degree will give me from the point of view of finding a job and the salary level. There's a change in discussion in the last year that increased the question of irrelevancy. So for one side is to do operation inside the campus, and I will describe. But on the other side, we must, as educators, put on the table that there is another purpose to an academic degree, developing skills, developing knowledge, and developing yourself. So we must put it on the table as an opposite to get a degree only for getting a job.
And you told me it's also developing the ability to learn, right?
Developing?
The ability to learn.
Definitely. The main issues that I'm putting on the table, and in light of the discussions that we had early on this morning, because data is changing and because data is outside there, we need to give our students the ability to learn by themselves, and that might solve part of the problems that were discussed earlier. Example on how it is done on everyday life in campus. First of all, it's not easy at all. I presented nice slides with a lot of colors, but the everyday change is not easy at all. Faculty resists. A normal question that I'm receiving, Professor Moyal, what do you want? We are okay in any operational parameter that we are judging the institute. Why do you want to make a change? Because I'm taking care of the next 5 or 10 years. I don't want to wait for the crisis. Surprisingly, the students are rejecting the change. Last year, we almost faced a strike of the students because we changed something in the method. So the change is not easy at all. And the everyday life, I think that the main discovery that we had in the last 2 years is that we as management need to lead, provide vision and strategy, and put on the table platform that will take the organization forward. And one main conclusion is that everybody is working in communities. Our students are working in communities to handle the change. The faculty is in communities, talking the change and supporting each other. And recently, even our alumni that we call them to be involved in the campus are working in communities. So basically, Afeka is currently a large number of communities that are absorbing the change and moving all forward together.
Thank you. So Anthony, I think it's really interesting because Nomi here said we're always going to need the formal education system for the hard skills. And you come visiting us from Coursera. So do you agree?
Yeah, so look, I think that there's always going to be a place for the formal education. I think we're seeing a huge change in the learning pattern of individuals from the older model where you got educated, you worked, you retired, to you learn, you work, you change, you learn, you work, you change, and that iterates over multiple periods. Coursera is an online platform that provides content from leading universities around the world. And we have about 160 university partners that provide content in what we call long-form transformational content, very much focused on driving new skills for individuals. And so a single course might be 10 hours in length, to specializations, to full online degrees. And we have 40 million people on that platform. In Israel, there's about 250,000 people on that platform. The average age is 34. Most of these people are already in work looking to reskill or learn new educational content. And they work for companies who, in the vast majority of cases, their business isn't about teaching, it's about selling or retailing or manufacturing or financial services. And the education isn't a core function of these companies. It should be something that is provided by organizations where it is their core function, which is the formal educational system. And many of the companies that we're talking to who are working in partnership with some of these universities will have their own corporate universities to continue that lifelong learning. That's something that the higher educational organizations have the ability to become outsourced partners for. I know some of the financial tech companies we're working for are talking with universities about how they could outsource some or all of that corporate educational track to those organizations who have the expertise in providing that learning, as long as the formal education has evolved into a way that actually then caters for lifelong learning rather than just an upfront 4-year period and then stop.
So I think maybe Frank would be a good time to ask you about quofox, for example, as a platform for learning from Germany that takes a slightly different perspective on learning, more from the perspective of the organizational aspect. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, thank you. I believe because of my age I was invited, and as you imagine, I'm not so focused on degrees. I'm more focused on what's happened after degrees. So if we talk about lifelong learning, what's happened after someone has done his degree, and what's happened then, who is paying for education, who is paying for training, who is support this whole transformation, which means that we are concentrating on corporate learning, where after the degree the most learning and education is done within the corporates. And we provide a platform for corporates, so for L&D, with content which is already on the market, so we don't develop our own content. I guess there is such huge content on the market. You have to aggregate them and you have to curate them, you have to qualify them, and then to offer this to corporates. This is what we are doing. And so we are organizing with our platform for corporate learning the lifelong learning within the corporations, doing this on a very individual and personal way, so to offer learning paths, skill sets, skill assessments to the individual and the corporate.
Thank you, and I think the lifelong learning question, so Ella, you come from Digital Israel, and that is a relatively new platform from the government that actually looks at the digital transformation, and I think you do have a strategy around putting material out there for lifelong learning that I believe not many people know about.
If it's okay, I would like to say something on a personal note. Everything Nomi and Ami talked about was present in my academic education, and that was more than 15 years ago, so it is possible, it is done, and it's done great. My personal academic education was uplifting, and that's what enables me to do my job right now, and I hope to do it well enough for the citizens of Israel. Campus IL is a national initiative. It's a platform similar to Coursera and similar to the German platform. But it is a national initiative, a partnership between Digital Israel in the Ministry of Social Equality and the Council of Higher Education. And we are trying, it's an initiative that started 3 years ago, and we are trying to provide the local community with digital courses, digital content in Hebrew, in Arabic, here in Israel, academic courses, life skills, vocational training, professional development courses. And just a few things about our goal is to, first of all, I think, bridge the gap between social and economical, help me out here for a second.
Yeah, the gap.
Yeah, bridge the gap. And provide this education for everyone. So this is one of our most important missions. And by doing that, providing an opportunity for financial growth and having everyone enjoy this financial growth in Israel.
That's actually fabulous, and we talk about digital type of education. So Anthony, I wonder, Coursera has probably data, and we know adoption of online learning has been a challenge. What are you doing to grow both the access as well as the understanding of the value?
Yeah, so I think the challenge with online learning has always been a big focus on, will people complete the courses and so on. Because we have 40 million people on the platform, we get a lot of data to work with, and so there are a number of things that we can do to help drive that engagement with learning. But I think it starts from two simple things. So one is, first of all, is the student, is the learner in a position where they can learn? So do they have the access to the technology, typically simple internet, browser access is all that's required. Can they learn in the language? Is the course relevant to their level and so on? That's the easy sort of bit to address. And the second bit is the learner, are they motivated to learn? Do they want to learn? And that's very much about connecting then what's in it for them as an individual to engage with learning. If they're working with an organization, why is it relevant to the company? How does it bring meaning to the work that they do? And when you're talking about addressing skills and developing either skills you don't have today or significantly improving skills, then the what's in it for the employee or the individual can be much higher, because it is about either getting a new job or promotion or getting onto projects you couldn't have done before, or internal mobility options and so on. And these are, in some cases, life-changing because it allows people to get from a world of unemployment into where they can get work, or within a work environment an opportunity to do something completely different, new, interesting, motivational, or financially driven. Outside of that, you have all the sort of data capabilities to drive engagement. So all organizations have to constantly communicate and market to the employees about the value of learning. It doesn't happen overnight. People need guidance about what to learn. If you just give people too much choice, they get choice overload. And so giving them guidance and recommendations, demonstrating the behaviors from senior executives in companies will help drive learning with employees, or having guides or mentors to kind of push that through. And then you also get kind of system-driven things. You're 73% through the course already. Another hour and 17 minutes will get you to completion. These kind of nudges from the systems will also help drive those engagements. But it really does come down to connecting why, as an individual, should you engage with this learning? What's in it for you? What's the value you'll get from it? And working collectively as a team to help them understand that value.
And one of the things that I found very interesting that you shared with me, we think of the classic we basically say completion, right, as the way to judge that this has been working. And maybe it's okay if you finished the class after 80% because you've learned what you need to learn. So I thought that was a very interesting comment. Thank you. So Frank, talk about keeping people on track, right? I know that your platform creates basically additional learning paths at the individual level. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. First of all, I would like to say, and the speaker before and this morning told us because of this, and we made this experience, how we learned education, how we learned training. What is our experiences with this? Yeah, we go to school and someone said to us what we have to do. We are not able to select a teacher because one of them is bad, the other is good. So society said to us how we do our training and learning in the school. The same happened more or less in the university. So no one really trained us to do education for ourselves, to keep our workforce ready, to keep our knowledge ready for this transformation. This is one of this. And if we if we discuss about online learning or video trainings, who tells us that this is the best way? We are discussing about online training. Why? I'm a person who learned in-person training. This was how I grew up. And for me, it's difficult to adapt to online trainings. It's really a challenge for me to do this. It's really a challenge for me. And if you look to corporates, for instance, one of our corporates is Daimler, the car company, with 250,000 persons on staff. And they are doing still today 80% in-person training. So instructor-led trainings. Why is this bad? I don't know. We have to overcome, I believe, these thinking. We have to focus on the individual, how he would like to learn, which is the best way how to learn, and therefore we create individual skill sets, we create individual learn paths, where the company define a target in the learning path, in the skill set, but the employee is able to select if he would like to do this via a video, if he would like to do this via in-person training, or if he would like to do this with an e-learning. And that is what we are doing, and I believe that's the future also in corporate learning, and this is also to overcome a resistance in Germany, as well as in other European countries, a resistance to online training at all. So we have to train them also to use online training in the future.
So thank you. So Naomi, maybe this is a good time to turn back to you. I think the question about what should be the next phase of the evolution of our maybe higher education formal systems, and we can't just throw online training and call it a day.
So, as I mentioned before, we at the Council for Higher Education are doing a few things. You said before that we can't force the institutions to do anything. It's true, we're not that kind of a governmental agency that forces the institutions. We respect the academic freedom that is instituted in the law that created the Council for Higher Education. Actually, we more than respect it. We cherish, we uphold this academic freedom. We think it is very important. But we do have something that can aid us steer the boat in the right course, according to what we consider to be the right course, and that is money. Turns out that even academics in the proverbial ivory tower respond to financial incentives. And when you issue a call for proposal with a sufficiently high price, it can help, as I said, steer the boat in certain directions. I'll just give one example. It is our entrepreneurship program. Before we had the speaker who wrote Startup Nation, and we realized that, of course, Israel is a startup nation, but academia in Israel is not a strong participant or an active participant in this game, and that is a pity. There is a missed potential here. And so we issued a call for proposal, which was a competitive call for proposals, so the whole system, it was a wake-up call for the whole system, and I'm honored to be sitting here with one of the winners in this call for proposal, Afeka College. And the idea was to create entrepreneurship centers that will help students acquire the soft skills, that will help the connection between industry and academia, leverage these kinds of new pedagogical methods, break down the silos between the disciplines, encourage interdisciplinarity, project-based learning, problem-based learning, etc. And it is an incentive that works very well. It is a change that is now coming from within the institutions. This is sort of inserted now into the DNA, and this is one thing that we can do in order to help the system move in this direction.
It'd be fascinating to watch in the next few years. Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.